This is Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about the backer survey that you send out after your project ends. Kickstarter allows creators to send out one official survey to all backers to make sure that they have their address correct, and that if you have any other information that you need from backers, like how many games they backed, how many add-ons they backed, just in case that information is hard to tell from the amount that they paid, you get that one survey that you can send out to your backers. Alternatively, you can use a third-party pledge manager like CrowdOx, BackerKit, and Pledge Manager, and I'll talk about that in a second. The first thing I want to talk about is timing, when to send out the backer survey. Typically on my projects, I would send out the survey right away. And that is because with my projects, I was ready to go to print right after the project ended, and so I needed to know how many copies to actually make. Not just for the main game, but also for maybe the premium version or any special add-ons that I was making. I needed to know those quantities, and I needed to get that information from backers. The risk in doing that, though, is that backers often have address updates if there's a big gap in time between when you send the survey and then when you actually ship out the game. So Kickstarter does allow for backers to update their address information through Kickstarter at any time if you leave that option open, but sometimes you might want to consider closing that gap. But the key point in time that you want to send that survey is when you need to know the quantities to actually make and send to backers. So the big debate with backer surveys is, do you use Kickstarter survey or do you use a third-party pledge manager like CrowdOx, BackerKit, or Pledge Manager? My most recent survey, before this video, last week I ran a survey among the readers of my blog. I've run these before, but every year there's a trend that I've noticed, and this year the trend really comes to light. The survey indicated that 70% of people who have a preference, 70% of backers who have any preference at all, prefer that you use Kickstarter survey for very simple projects. Like if there's only one or two pledge levels, there's no add-ons, very simple, you pledged it, you backed it, you want to get your reward. They prefer that you use Kickstarter for that. However, if you have any sort of complexity in the project, maybe there are a number of back-ons, maybe there were stretch goals that required back-ons or many different reward levels, backers prefer you use a third-party pledge manager. So simple for Kickstarter, complex for Pledge Manager. 70% of people prefer that. Beyond that, 21% of people prefer the Pledge Manager, just outright, always they prefer it, and then only 9% prefer the Kickstarter survey, always. So I would take that into consideration. If your project is complex, use a Pledge Manager. If your project is simple, use the Kickstarter survey. If you do use the Kickstarter survey, one little technique I used is I would send out, you send it out for every reward tier. So I would send it out for one tier and then wait like 30 minutes to an hour before sending out another, just in case I messed up with the wording, if backers have a lot of questions, if some of the survey results come in and they're a little weird, I might look at that first before sending it out to the next tier. And also, just a quick note, some people will never fill out the survey. There are some backers you will never hear from. I still get updates now from Euphoria, a project I ran 5 years ago. I still get people who just now realize, hey, I never filled out that survey, and they fill it out. So no matter how much you send out the survey or remind people after you send out the survey, some people just are never going to do it. And at a certain point, you need to decide, this is my cutoff. I'm cutting it off after this. I'm not going to accept any other surveys, and I'll just refund everyone who didn't make that fill out the survey. Or don't refund it. You can decide how ethically you want to deal with that. If you have any other thoughts about the backer survey, I have a bunch of posts about this on my Kickstarter Lessons blog, or you can post in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks.